AI happens pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, it might just pass you by.
Hello and welcome to The Reasoning Show. I'm your host, Brian Gracely, and today we're going to have some fun. I know we try and keep things, I don't want to say really serious, but we're always trying to educate you and focus on things that, because I know a lot of this matters to a lot of people and it's important content and important technology. But today we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to do kind of a recreation of something that we did probably 10 or 12 years ago, maybe even 14 years ago. I don't remember exactly when we did it, but we are going to draft. We're going to kind of do some put our future looking hats on. We're going to, kind of look into the future, put our crystal ball on, and Brandon and I are going to look at in draft format what we think the next year is going to look like in terms of AI. And so we're going to go pick some topics, pick some companies, pick some trends and some, maybe some craziness that we think is going to happen in the AI space over the next year. And we're going to do that right after the break. Today's show is sponsored by ShareGate. You're out of time. Copilot needs to be deployed ASAP. But your tenant really isn't ready for it. Years of data, permissions, and users lurk in its shadows, ready to be exposed by AI. ShareGate Protect sees it all, so you can find the exposure risks, fix them fast, and deploy AI with confidence. Microsoft 365 Governance, they've got this. Learn more at sharegate.com/protect. Today's show is sponsored by Nasuni. There's a growing gap in AI right now between what's possible in theory and what successfully works at scale inside an enterprise. The difference comes down to unstructured file data. Many AI initiatives struggle because the file data they depend on is scattered, unstructured, and disconnected from where and how work actually happens. Nasuni changes that. It brings your unstructured file data into a single, secure foundation so AI, both generative and agentic, can access it with the context, governance, and performance it needs in production. Bring AI to where your unstructured data lives. See what it takes to activate your data for AI and request a demo at nasuni.com/AI. And we're back. And today we're going to do something that, we try and keep the show fairly focused, fairly, educational and so forth. Today's just going to kind of be a stupid show because quite honestly, April was quite a month in terms of AI news and stuff. We'll get to that, probably the show after that, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to keep something, kind of touch on two things that we do all the time with friend of the show, Brandon Whichard, who's joining us from Software Defined Talk. Brandon, how are you?
I'm as fantastic as always. I'm always happy to pop on and bring some levity to the world of the Reasoning Show.
So today we're going to do something that we usually spend about 2 minutes doing when Brandon comes on, which is we're going to talk about the intersection of football and AI. This is going to be very timely because last week, again, this is, the other stupid thing we do all the time is we try and make things as U.S. centric as possible, even though like 50% of our audience is outside the U.S. The NFL draft, which is the biggest sport in the world other than, once a year when everyone watches the World Cup, they hold their annual draft, which means that every team gets to pick new players. So we are going to hold the 2026 AI draft, and we're going to draft somewhere between 8 and 10 picks. And what we're going to do here, Brandon, because I know you're going to kind of rise to the occasion here. We're going to pick sort of eight to 10 things, and I basically told you it could be anything from the AI ecosystem, anything from the AI industry. This could be a company, this could be a trend, this could be kind of anything you want to. And we're going to kind of, do these all out. We're going to do about 8 to 10 sort of rounds back and forth. Shouldn't take too long. And then 1 year from now, so, basically May 1st of 2027, we're going to come back and do an analysis of this. And maybe even every 6 months, we'll kind of do an analysis of it. But this is going to be, you having to look a little bit into the future, not too far into the future, but we're only making it 1 year because quite honestly, so much changes in the AI space. Like any of these things could be great picks or they could be terrible picks. So what's your initial thought going into this? What's your high level thought process, your strategy of how to lay this out?
Well, one, I actually feel a little bit of pressure. I feel like this is like almost like an annual review. I'm like, oh my gosh, again, a year from now, I'm going to have to defend all these things I wrote down. This is exactly how when I fill out my OKRs or MBL, I'm like, in a year, will I be able to claim victory on this? Let me see.
That's right.
So I'm going into it with I feel a little pressure, but I think I'm ready to rise to the occasion. But this is not a draft pick, but I was like, as you said, I can pick anything. It's like, maybe I should just pick like matrix multiplication. It's like, I feel like that's just like the basis of all that. It's like, I don't know if it makes any money, but it's like, yeah, it's just having a renaissance. Everyone that took linear algebra and numeric methods, like myself in college, I was like, this is just a waste of time. Turns out that was the one class, that was the math class I should have been paying attention. Didn't need any of that calculus, just needed matrix multiplication. But who knew?
Could have been a billionaire, not having to do, slumming it down here in
That's right. Now a
podcast land.
podcaster doing drafts. It is what it is.
That's right. So here's how we're going to do this, just because, the more and more I thought about this, I was like, well, this will be sort of fun. Everybody can pick, everybody at home. If you guys want to do your own draft and send them into us, you want to send it to show@reasoning.show or publish it out on social media and tag us. Happy to look at your draft, analyze it, critique it. I did realize the more I was going through this, it's going to be a little tricky for us to give grades, because we're going to be picking things that aren't all going to have sort of the same metric against them, right? So for example, the easiest thing would be like, okay, let's suppose you pick NVIDIA. We can look at NVIDIA's stock price on May 1st, 2026 and May 1st of 2027. We can look at, okay, how much did it grow? Did it, what percentage did it grow? And you could compare that to Google, or you could compare that to some other public company. But you can't do that to Anthropic or OpenAI, because you're not 100% sure they're going to be IPO'd. Or would it be fair to compare?
I don't know. I think it's the magic of the draft.
It's the magic of the draft.
Maybe you could, maybe you can't. I mean, this is the magic,
exactly.
Right? This is what you have to decide.
We're going to get into some other things that we're going to have to figure out how to make up metrics. Like, for example, if you picked energy, I mean, that could be almost anything, right? It's important to AI.
The GDP of the world.
We're not exactly sure how to measure it. So,
love it.
Or if you pick something generic, like, for example, if you're like, I don't know, I'll just throw something out generic. I don't know if this will actually make the draft, but if you're like, hey, company in the lead falls 2 or 3 positions behind, and we talk about them being a potential catastrophe, hard to measure. But maybe for that kind of stuff, we should be like, well, there needs to be at least 2 instances within the year in order for that to count. So I think what we'll do is we'll draft it, we'll kind of analyze it, and then maybe we'll put some caveats on it, so that when we come back to actually try and measure it, at least there's something there. And the good news is, like you said, if we treat this like a performance review, if we don't really have good metrics on this, we can always be like, well, I mean, how was I supposed to know that was the most important thing?
I don't know.
Right?
I look forward to you putting me on a performance improvement plan.
We buy ourselves an hour.
That'd be great. That'd be fun. That'll be the first time ever in podcast history.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna use the internet flip a coin generator. Do you want heads or tails? I'll let you have the choice.
I'm gonna go tails. I'll take tails. Okay. Tails never fails.
All right. And it is heads. So
right,
I'm going to defer. I'm going to defer to the second half, because that's what you do in football when you win the coin toss.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the first pick, and I'm going to kind of keep track of these as we go along. So you've got the first pick.
All right. Well, listen, the obvious one on the board here is NVIDIA, but I'm going the other way. I know NVIDIA is going to be off the board almost immediately, probably your next pick. But if we think about what we're really grading on here, like in 1 year.
Yeah.
Who's going to improve the most? So this is not to say NVIDIA isn't great. It's just they're so great already. There's not as much room to improvement.
Right.
And of course, listening to this show, I love Claude Code.
Yeah.
And so I have to go with it. I have to go with Anthropic. They're the late bloomer in the draft, right? Like, people have kind of weren't sure. They were like a young company, a little bit unknown what they were going to do. But I feel like this last 6 months, they have been on fire. If there were a national championship of AI, I would have said they would have won it. They would have been like the college quarterback that has risen up out of nowhere. And I think they're just firing on all cylinders. I think they have OpenAI on the defensive. They have figured out how to make money with this. Literally every week, they introduce new features that I'm impressed with, while everyone else is giving keynotes that don't really deliver on anything. Anthropic's just firing out blog posts about all these great new features. So for all of those reasons, and I almost implicitly by drafting them, I think they will either have had their IPO or be on the cusp of their IPO in a year. And I expect it to be, honestly, at this point, I think it would be a $1 trillion plus IPO. So, so there you go. I'm on the record. Everyone can come back to me and tell me either I was a genius or an idiot.
Yeah.
So
no, it's on paper. It's a great pick. It's the equivalent of picking the Heisman Trophy winner. You've seen what it can do, and even though it It hasn't had to operate in the public markets yet. It hasn't really had to raise, hasn't had to build its own data center yet. Any of those sort of things. It still has lawsuits with the federal government, the biggest organization in the world. But it's done well for what you've seen. It's an absolutely quality first pick. Nobody's gonna ding you for that one. So that one's off the board.
I like it. Now, where are you going? Where are you going? You go to the obvious one here?
Well, So I think NVIDIA is definitely, like, again, the NVIDIA pick would be the most obvious one. It's like it's the big lineman that nobody can kind of get around. I agree with you though. I think it's the pick there is how much upside is there, right? This is picking a 24-year-old kid versus picking a 21-year-old kid. Like, is there a lot of upside? Does he have a bad knee yet? I'm gonna go down the path of Google. I'm jumping on the Thomas Kurian bandwagon.
This is quite the upset. All right, okay, go on. Tell me more.
Well, I think, and this is the thing where again the metrics are going to be hard to look at. But when I look at Google, it's like, number one, Google Cloud has thrown out some numbers of what their backlog looks like. I mean, their backlog kind of graph looks a little bit like the OpenClaw initial chart. I mean, it is way up and to the right. But Google also benefits from, all the other things that Google kind of does at scale. Like, they've now figured out ads at scale with AI. They're figuring out how to do ads on YouTube. They've got Waymo is jamming. So artificially, it's sort of its numbers are going to be a little bit high. But if we end up just measuring public valuation in the stock market, I feel pretty good with this as a first pick. It's, is it off the board? No. Is it maybe the leader in AI? Maybe not. But I feel like they've got another moment where we're all like, oh yeah, Google totally has their stuff together again, right? Like we did 3 months ago. I feel like somewhere in the next year, we're going to feel like that again.
That's interesting because, they just had their earnings were phenomenal, right? But, I will say on I watched all the keynotes and I was like, they were very old school enterprise in their agent stuff, which that gives me pause. Like it would almost be like, that's like a knee injury. That was like sort of like the doctors checked out the knee. Yeah. I'm a little worried structurally. I'm not saying they can't come back for it. I'm not saying they can't be better, but like, there's some volatility there with it, Brian. I just want you to know. It's like when they came out, they're like, and we have an agent registry. Like, I've got thousands of people watching me and I'm going to announce the agent registry. I was like,
I know.
Team, there could have been other things we talked about other than agent registry and observability. I'm just saying we could have used our time better, but that doesn't mean they're not going to play through that. And if we've seen one thing we see with Google is like, you almost don't even want to watch the announcements. It's more like what just happens, right? A few weeks go by, months go by, and they just they do it. So I like it. I like your pick. It's highly volatile, but I like it.
Yeah, the other thing people should know, and we've got these things written down, so you obviously can't see them as podcast people. No more than 4 picks can be vendors. So we're gonna get through the vendor stuff. People are gonna say, okay, they went after some big names, and we do that because to a certain extent the industry right now is kind of dominated by big names. But the back half, well, it could be any part of the draft. You can pick them at any point, but the majority of these will not be just vendors. These are going to be trends. They're going to be something else. So stick with us as we're going along here. All right. Pick is back to you. Second round pick.
All right. Well, listen, at some point you just have to take the best available player. I'm not going to fight this. We're not going to belabor it. I'm going to take NVIDIA here. Right. I mean, everything needs to say. It's like, what can you say? I mean, they're already sold out for chips for the whole next year. I mean, the only question is just like, how many more chips are they going to sell? I guess what would be 2028 and how many more crazy chip deals is NVIDIA going to do? So I think it needs no explanation. I'll take NVIDIA here. They're the cornerstone, if you will. They're the left tackle that's going to protect my star quarterback of Anthropic because there's just such a high floor here. Like even if they were to quote unquote do poorly, it means they're probably only a $5 trillion-ish company. So I'm going to take NVIDIA. Again, I believe in Jensen. And again, like when the wind is behind you, sometimes you just have to sail the boat. Like it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's not complicated at NVIDIA. Just sell what's on the truck and you're going to do great.
Yeah. I mean, your season ticket holders are going to like this pick. Your ownership is going to like this pick. I mean, it's going to have a high price tag. It's going to come with its own set of things. But yeah, it's reliable. It's a left tackle that'll be there for the next 10 years for you. People are going to like this one. All right. No, I appreciate that. I'm going to go off the board in terms of vendors, and I'm going to take major AI-centric IPO in 2026, $1 trillion valuation. Could be OpenAI, could be Anthropic. I'm sort of, I'm hedging your Anthropic bet there. I think we got to question whether or not like SpaceX would be in this because they do have the OpenAI or the XAI.
If they buy Cursor,
including Cursor in there.
They buy Cursor after their acquisition and they give Cursor access to their big data center. Are they then a quote unquote AI frontier company?
Right. So yeah, I am buying the market. I'm buying the sentiment around people want an IPO and then, all right.
So to clear here, I want to make sure I'm writing this down. Major IPO of, I guess, a privately held AI company. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the obvious thought here would be this would be an Anthropic, an OpenAI, a SpaceX, one of those. But I mean,
there are others. There are other companies that are trying to get out even earlier, right?
Could be Cerebus. Could be.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Could be Cursor for all we know. I mean.
Okay. Well, I mean, now that would be a bold pick. Cursor going IPO. I think they're going to.
But again, I did qualify it as it needs a $1 trillion valuation. Like at some point.
All right, a $1 trillion valuation. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's like we're investors, or we're advising you to go out and buy the $1 trillion. All right. That's a good solid pick. I can't fault you with that one. Let's see here. What do I have on my list here? I think this is another one that's maybe a little bit, I'm picking this a little early, but Broadcom. I'm going to take Broadcom here. I think Broadcom is sort of like, it's funny to say forgotten, but they live in the NVIDIA shadow, right? But Broadcom makes, a lot of the Google chips, right? Whatever, I just forgot the name of them. Anyway, the TI, whatever it's called there at Google. And I think, when your number one vendor has already sold out all of the chips, all you can do is to go to the number two vendor manufacturer and be like, hey, can you make these chips? And I think Google, to kind of dovetail, I know Google does some business there with Broadcom. I know a lot of people are in need of chips. Broadcom has the additional capacity. It's sort of like, NVIDIA is, I live here in Austin, Texas. It's like when the barbecue, it's like, it's 2:00. We're out of barbecue. But you gotta go eat. You gotta go eat Tex-Mex. It's like, that's all that's left. So that's what I am. Broadcom is the good Tex-Mex that's available after all your barbecue has been sold out. So I'm taking them here. I think they're going to do well. I'm going heavy on chip design and manufacturing in my draft here. So Broadcom is my third pick.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great pick. I think, if they had cameras in the draft room, my frustration would be showing. I did have them high on they might have been my third pick. So yeah, it's a good job by you, not only getting value, but also, probably stealing what would have been my next pick. So congratulations. Plus you get any sort of VMware upside that comes along with that as well, which I know you're
right. Stay close to the cloud. You can't leave your roots. You never know. Maybe VMware, it's a little Tanzu thrown in there on top. Why not? I'll take it.
There you go. All right, with my third pick, I kind of can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to take Amazon. If we're betting in the 1 year thing, I feel like Andy Jassy is just, I think he's frustrated. I think he hasn't gotten his $1 billion bump yet. I think he's
$1 trillion bump.
Or $1 trillion bump, excuse me.
Forget it, $1 billion is like yesterday's pocket change. Go on.
It feels like they are finally sort of opening their pocketbooks, I feel like if we're looking at where the stock's going to be in a year, I feel like they haven't gotten the bump that everybody else has. I think they've, as much as I don't totally believe the idea of pick your own is the best strategy. I think AI is still in the tell me what I should do, give me opinions sort of thing. I think they're going to take a lot of money away from Microsoft. I think Microsoft is going to be the company for the next year that we're going to be like, oh man, they're really kind of struggling. They've sort of lost it with their models. Copilot hasn't done what it wants to do. And I think Amazon's hedge, Amazon, this is essentially a hedge between, hey, we have a lot of computing available to us, even if it's CPUs. We have a hedge on Anthropic and we have a hedge on OpenAI. I'm doing this, and I think Andy is just, I think he wants to get back into making AWS the center of that business, and I think he does. So that's my thought process around Amazon.
I like it. So I have some questions here. So it's kind of interesting. I'm trying to stay away from the obvious relationship analogy here, but listening to the Ben Thompson, Mark Gurman interview that happened this week, and I thought it was kind of very telling because it was sort of like Microsoft. This is just me kind of almost overreading the situation, but it really feels like Microsoft is like, I am just sick of OpenAI. These shenanigans, all the stuff they're doing, it just makes me crazy. I'm tired of them. And so they get to a deal where it's just like, fine, we're not exclusive anymore. You just have to make this payment. I'm just going to hold my huge stake in your equity, and you can go do whatever you want, right? I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like Microsoft sort of like in disgust is like, go away, right? You've just been too much of a hassle. And Amazon sitting there, AWS really is sitting there is like, oh, come here. Like this is the perfect place for you. But like, it does kind of feel like these relationships, I mean, you hate to like, the cliche is like Sam Altman, like, you know, he rushes into these things and there's all this fanfare, but then a few months and years go by and it doesn't end well, right? People usually end kind of angry. Like we're seeing this Microsoft OpenAI thing. So
yeah,
that's why I wonder when I was listening to no, obviously Andy Jassy wasn't on. This was Matt Garman, the CEO of AWS. And I was just sitting there. I was like, Matt, I know you're excited, but like, did you look at the history here? Like history shows these things don't always work out the way that you want. And so that is, I guess, my one question around, not so much that will affect or prevent AWS from doing well. It just means that like that upside that they're sort of counting on, I don't know. I worry that it may not be there. Did you consider that at all?
I did consider that. I listened to that same interview. To me, the thing that sort of jumped to mind was if Matt Garman was, if there was a parallel world where that interview was really just an episode of Sex and the City, Matt Garman would be the one that all the girlfriends would be like, okay, dude, you had an opportunity with this great girl with Anthropic. You just didn't commit to it. You weren't willing to commit to it. And then you kind of went through the wilderness. You tried a lot of different things. They didn't necessarily work. And now you're going after the bad boy. And I know you think that's fun. And I know you think that's cool. And he's like, I got it. I've learned a lot of things. I figured this out. I mean, look, everybody's got their data here in our cloud. That's our anchor that we're always coming back to. No, I mean, it was that interview was interesting because it very much felt like it had 10%, yes, we're kind of doing some things together. And it had 90% of just two parallel stories that were going on at the same time. But yeah, no, I don't know that the OpenAI thing makes Amazon's moat any better, but I think Amazon is pretty good at being like, look, our strategy is we offer, like you've always said, we offer all everything. The primitives. And, do we love some more than others? I don't know, maybe. But I think the thing that they have that probably drew OpenAI over to them was, I think their data centers are better. I think they've got sort of cheaper chips and cheaper GPUs, which are CPUs, which are becoming more and more relevant. They've got probably more data center space that they're willing to allocate to this stuff. And I just don't
more
think
customers, right? They've
got more customers, and I don't think Azure.
As that, right?
I think Azure's faults or shortcomings were they were just getting escalated more and more, and that was creating, like I'm sure OpenAI was like, you guys aren't getting the job done. And of course, Microsoft's a prideful place and they think we're on top of the mountain, and they're like, no, we're not. And I'm sure if you ask Satya, he would go, hey, dude, maybe you didn't notice we grew 40% this last quarter, year over year. So we're doing perfectly fine even with this stuff. So it's interesting dynamics. But yeah, I thought about it, but I thought, look, of all the big ones, I'll take 2 out of the 3 cloud providers. On my roster.
I like the thing. Well, I think for everyone that hasn't listened to it, you should go listen to that Ben Thompson interview. And like, it is a contrast in communication styles. That's the funniest thing about it. It was like,
absolutely,
Matt Garman is like, he's doing the AWS on message, and he just kept saying, he's like builders. Like he uses like all the AWS nomenclature that, I don't know. I'm always just like, do people talk like this outside of AWS? I don't think so. But anyway, but then of course, and then you have Sam Altman. It's just like, yeah, we're going to do, it's just like, he's just like off the cuff saying whatever he wants. It's like, he's like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so that's why it's like an odd couple kind of moment, right? Of going in there. So it's going to be fun to watch. That's your team. If I shall say, it's got like some strong personalities in it. Could go
Absolutely.
A lot of directions.
We're going to need a coach that can kind of deal with this stuff.
You really are. You're gonna you're gonna have to invest in some management stuff. Okay,
absolutely.
I guess.
All right, you're back up.
I'm on the clock here. I think it starts to get kind of hard at this point. I don't have conviction like I did in my earlier picks. I guess. I mean, I really kind of don't want to do it, but I feel like I just got to take OpenAI. I mean, I just kind of outlined like OpenAI is like just crazy. It's just I'm drafting crazy. I don't really it has incredible talent and incredible upside, but like it's also possible that OpenAI gets suspended and can no longer play. Like literally, as we're recording this, there's a trial going on that if I guess they were to lose, they would be in big trouble. I don't know what would happen, but like that would be a huge situation. So I mean, that's just like anything can happen here. But I got to go upside. It's like I think they've had a lot of missteps, as probably people are going to hear like on upcoming episode. We talked a lot about their executive changes. They've had a lot of people change. They've had a lot of strategy changes and stuff like that. Sam Altman, questionable whether he tells the truth that much. But having said all that, like I'm like an investor writing a check I'm forced into. I just got to ride this. It's like I do like what they've done with Codex recently. I think when they do kind of turn the ship, they turn it quick and they make some fun stuff. Unfortunately, they've announced they're going to make a phone, which means I'm worried about. I feel like that's going to be a disaster, but we're going to ride through that. It's like, doesn't matter. That'll just be another crazy initiative. And they're still the leader in the consumer chatbot world. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to take OpenAI. I'm going to take them off the board. I'm going to take them with, I guess, what is my fourth pick. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a pick that if we had been talking about this maybe at the beginning of the year, when the season previews came out, it was on the cover. People were like, look, definite number one pick, probably an All-American. But yeah, some things have changed. Some things have come out. And I was trying very hard to get you to take this one because I was like, there's no way I'm taking this one. I'm just going to keep leaving it out there for you.
It's like, I can see my coaching staff is just disgusted with me. They're like, why did you do this? I'm like, oh, listen, I had to. I had to do it. It is what it is.
And the thing is, the bots are going to pick this up and they're going to go, Brandon has Anthropic, NVIDIA, and OpenAI. He absolutely won the draft at this point. If there was a midpoint, but I don't know. I'm not sure because again, we're looking for growth, not just this isn't a Kardashian draft. This isn't just about how things look on the surface. There's some substance here. All right, for my next pick, I am going to take company announces that they have more agents than employees.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Say more on this. Okay, go on.
Well, I think we're going to reach a point, and again, we've been through a few things here. We've seen some. And again, this isn't sort of intended to be like I'm rooting for like layoffs or something. This is a company we've already seen token maxing, we've seen token scoreboards, we've seen companies, Jensen saying, "Hey, look, if my best engineers aren't using as much in their salary in tokens every year, I'm going to be docking them." I think the next step in this is some company, and I'm not looking for like, Sam's little tiny thing where he's like, we've got 2 people and 50 agents. I'm looking for, a decent sized company that comes out and says, we're now accelerating the business. And part of doing that is we now have more agents than employees. And again, I don't want this I'm not going to count this if it's like, hey, we laid off half the company. Like, I'm not going to do this if it's like Block. Hey, we laid off half the company. Wink, wink was a dumb idea. Now we have, twice as many agents. Like I want somebody who wears a suit and tie every single day to stand in front of the podium at a public thing and say, we now have more agents than employees. And I think it's coming. I think within the next year. And it's going to be a trend that then people are going to be like, oh shit, Brandon, you don't manage 10 agents? As opposed to in the past, it was like, we went through the last couple of years where Amazon was like, hey, we're gonna say that every manager has to manage, not 10 people, but 25 people. I think we're going to see a flip of that. So this is a little bit of a flyer. This is a Division III prospect that had a bunch of touchdowns really fast. I don't know if he can run more than one route, but I think it's out there, and I'm willing to take it early in the draft, or at least the midpoint of the draft.
Okay, I like it. It's a bold pick. I'll say that it's a bold pick. I'm going to go with. I've got a couple things here. I'm trying to decide between. I want to go with. It's like. I think I'm going to go with consumption-based pricing, unfortunately, comes to us. I think we saw this announcement with Copilot, right? They basically said, oh, you can't do you don't get the all-you-can-eat subscription anymore. Like everything is charged by, I guess, the token. So I think and it made me narrow it down. I think either Anthropic or OpenAI, one of those people is going to essentially turn off the pro plans, or at least significantly change them, right? I'm a card-carrying Claude Pro user, and I feel like every day it's just underpriced. But hopefully no one's from Anthropic's listening. I'm just like, oh my god, I'd pay so much more than $20 for this. But I think they figured it out, and they're probably going to move to something that's like kind of expensive, especially for like let's call it like, I don't know, individual hobbyist kind of person, because they're just going to say, I think what they're going to say is like, Brandon, that's cool. You're doing all those fun side projects, but like, I'm just going to sell my tokens to large companies that are willing to pay the premium for the access to all the good Claude models. So that's what I'm going to say, is that consumption-based pricing becomes sort of the default or the mainstream as all these companies push towards their IPO. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's an awesome pick. In fact, I'm kicking myself for not going down that path. I mean, we've already seen. I think there's great value here, because we've already seen. Microsoft is talking about it. I mean, they're sort of talking about like it's going to be seat-based pricing plus a premium for some sort of count of tokens. We've already seen Anthropic sort of do this thing where they're like, oh, it's not there anymore in the pro thing, and maybe it's there, maybe it's not. We've seen some shortages of resources. There's some concerns about will all enough data centers get built. So yeah, I think there's going to be not just one. I think there's going to be multiple examples of this stuff. Yeah, the economics of this I should have had higher on my list. That's a great choice. I feel like that's a second round pick that you're getting for fifth round value. I think that's an awesome pick.
All right, I think you're off, because I used up on my vendor picks. Let's see here. No, I guess you've got a slot here for a vendor pick as well. So
yeah, I've only got two vendor picks at this point. So you've got one, two, three.
You kept your late round options available to you.
Yeah, I'm going to take TSMC. I feel like it's in the same way that NVIDIA is so far the the easiest choice. I feel like TSMC is the counterpart to that. I need a little bit of stability because I've got a few kind of open-ended things. So I'm going to stick with TSMC. If the great thing about TSMC is I could either get this as like, grows quite a bit, because they've now decided, as Ben Thompson pointed out, they're gonna try and invest at a much higher level than they have in the past, which I think helps with their capacity.
Yeah, of course.
They could also get taken out by a war with China as well. So I think I'm gonna get to that point too. If that happens, not a good thing for the rest of the industry or probably the world. But I think it's a good solid bet that gives me some flexibility there.
Okay, solid pick there. All right, they get a little bit more weird. I think I did use all my vendor picks. So I don't know. This one you kind of mentioned.
You've got room for one more, because we allowed four.
All right, well, I'm still going to go this one. It's a little nebulous, so maybe you have to figure out how to constrain it. But I'm just going to take AI energy demand. It's going to be a huge problem, right? I don't think it's the chips are not going to be the constraint. I think to your TSMC, they're going to rise to the level. They're going to make all the chips that people want, but at some point, people are just going to run out of we either don't have enough energy. And the way that it translates to is it's not even people don't want data centers to be built. It's just there's not any place to put them, because you can't find enough gigawatts, as everyone keeps saying, to power all of these around the world. So I'll kind of make it more succinct. Is that the energy is the constraint that's preventing the growth, right? Not the chips. It's sort of like everyone has the chips, everyone has the money. They just don't have enough energy to buy, and that'll be the constraint for the coming year.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think that's good. It's solid. I mean, the numbers are already sort of lining themselves up, whether it's, lawsuits at the state level of like, we don't want your data center here. You've got, energy is going to be a voting issue this fall in the United States, of people being like, hey,
part of the election.
My energy bill is too high because you're letting these data centers. Yeah, I think that's going to catch a lot of points. I think you're getting a lot of value in the mid rounds. Your scouting team, they did some work.
They were working. They were out there working all day and all night for this.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff there. I'm going to take my 1, 2, 3. I've got 3. I'm going to take my fourth vendor. It's one of my last vendor choice. I'm going to take AMD. I know.
Okay, yeah, it.
Mm-hmm. And the reason for this is I feel like, if we went back in time, even a year ago, we would say, hey, who's leading in the CPU space? I think it's AMD. I think, and I'm saying this, and I probably shouldn't be, but I feel like Intel's up so much this year. I don't know how much more they can be, because I don't know that they have that much available capacity. I think the world is coming back to being like, oh, and by the way, we probably need a lot more CPUs too. I think AMD is well positioned for that, even though they're kind of flying under the radar right now. I feel like that's, I think they're going to be the winner in that. And who knows, maybe their way of getting around this is they're going to end up acquiring ARM or something like that. Now that ARM is also doing this, maybe that'll broaden their CPU portfolio.
Oh, I like that. That's almost a good pick itself. ARM getting bought. That's another good one. So, All right, good. AMD. All right, that's a good one. I think that those are some good choices there. see here, as we kind of get towards the end here, it's becoming harder and harder. I have to say, I'm not totally sure what I want to take here, and I'm not sure how to necessarily to say it, but I want to say like something along the lines of like, it's no longer just vibe coding. It's just coding. Like there is no distinction. I'm going to call it like, there's no distinction anymore between like the AI generated code and the quote unquote professionally developed code. And just this notion that people are like, oh, vibe coding is going to be like, what about like all the security vulnerabilities or what about all the issues? I'm like, no, this is the way. So it's like, there is no more vibe coding. There's just coding. So I think it's, if you will, move through the mainstream. This is the way going forward. Everyone that can use AI is essentially a coder, and we don't have to have this silly distinction between like your vibe coding versus your quote unquote a professional developer. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think that one's. I think it's a little bit of a reach. I think it's going to be hard to, unless there is a new term defined, which you're now getting outside of the mainstream developers who tend to invent their own terms like platform engineering and vibe coding. I think that's going to be a little harder to define, but there might be some examples of that. I think it's, the tools are definitely there to let other people do that stuff. Okay. With my 7th pick, I'm going to take people at your Thanksgiving dinner ask you about AI. I think there's going to be some sort of interesting, weird mainstream thing that it's going to come up at Thanksgiving dinner. I think it's going to be either a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. Your family's going to ask you sort of, explain something AI, and it won't be like explain chips to me. It'll be like explain this Kardashian level thing or this, voting scandal thing. I think it's reached that level where the family's going to ask you about the technology, similar to when the family asked you about that www thing back, when the internet was starting off.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's kind of, so we all have to be ready to show off our vibe coded Claude Code demos at Thanksgiving. Is what you're saying? It's like we're gonna have like it's gonna be like a pitch contest.
That's possible.
A hackathon is what we're having. A family hackathon
could be, or you could be fixing something of their. They might have bought like a. An AI like attachment, fashionist accessory or something like that they want you to fix. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's good. That's good. All right. We're getting, I don't know how many more rounds we have here.
All right. So we're at 7. I don't know. You want to do 8? You want to do 10? You want to do 9 and then an odd number?
Yeah. We should end on whatever you think is best here. But I'm sort of running. Admittedly, I'm telling you, I'm just running.
All right. So we're at 35 minutes. We're at 35 minutes. Let's do one more round. Let's do one more round. And then we can look at the other team and we'll have the ability to make one trade if there's something you want to trade.
Okay. Well, this one, I just wanted to get this one in. That's why I wanted to make sure we didn't run it around. So like this is a real flyer here, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to say Sam Altman is no longer the CEO of OpenAI. I don't know how. Maybe steps down, spend time with his family, whatever. I'm going to say Sam Altman steps down from being the CEO for some reason. And then I don't know. And we'll see what happens. So I have a whole year for that to come true. So we'll see what happens if it actually happens.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, I still go back to the thing that I don't think we've ever totally gotten sort of cleared up is how much of OpenAI does Sam Altman own? Right? I mean, forever it was zero. And then they sort of did this reorganization.
Yeah.
So if in a normal world where the sort of, founder getting pushed out would be pretty tough. I mean, the one thing he's got going for him is, he does sort of own the board, right? He's sort of handpicked all the board people and they're pretty loyal to him, but he doesn't have much skin in the game. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility. I think there could be, he's already had some threats of violence against him. Maybe he freaks out.
Yeah, maybe he gets tired of doing it. And he said for a long time that he doesn't see himself as a great quote unquote manager.
I mean, he's he's got Ronan Farrow digging into his dirt. I mean, something might come out of there. Mm-hmm. For an 8th round pick, I think it's pretty strong. I think there's good value there. I mean, if look, anything could happen. I'm looking back through my list. I'm going to take the flip side of your data center energy, and I'm going to take this thing I had written down, which is data center issue causes a significant change to human existence. And so this could be
that sounds ominous. It sounds like a beginning of a disaster movie.
It sounds ominous, but I think about it in the same way as like Flint, Michigan has had rust in their pipes for like a decade now because I feel like there's a city somewhere. It could be in the U.S. It could be in the Middle East or something, in which a water issue, an explosion, something happens, and there is, there's significant, and I'm not talking about human existence like the planet ends, but I feel like a data center thing will be at the center of a discussion that probably, goes on for like a week.
Okay.
In terms of, could be an explosion. I mean, and I'm going to rule out, we talked about there was some damage to data centers caused by the war going on in Iraq. I'm not going to count those unless, again, going forward, something were to happen. Like there's a nuclear bomb stored inside of one of those bad things. I'm not rooting for bad things, but I do feel like data centers, are kind of at the, just like you said with energy. I mean, we could be hedging each other's bet. I mean, it could be like, hey, data center got put in, local towns, bill went up 500%. Kids couldn't go to school,
right? People,
yeah.
Okay, I see your point. So it's good.
All right. So in summary, if we kind of go through the picks here, let's see. So I've got Google, I've got an AI-centric IPO, I've got Amazon, I've got company having more agents than employees, I've got TSMC and AMD on the hardware side. Asking about AI at the holidays and a data center causing, problem for somebody. You've got I feel like you've got sort of the royalty of this. You've got Anthropic, you've got NVIDIA, you've got OpenAI, you've also got Broadcom. So, kind of a banger lineup, top four. And then you've got some real value in the middle, AI consumption replacing seat-based pricing or subsidies going away. Big choice there. AI energy demand, which is just unbelievably broad. I can't even believe I'm letting you, have that whole, it's basically like the sun and everything else.
That's right.
You've got the sun, oil, coal, fracking.
Yeah, I like it.
You've got the end of vibe coding, and then you've got Sam Altman, bold last one.
Steps
Sam
down,
Altman
yep.
out as CEO of OpenAI.
Yeah, so I think it's good. Looking at this, it's kind of interesting. It's I guess the way the draft just kind of played out is sort of like, I guess I'm very like chip hardware centric, right? Whereas you really are the hyperscaler centric, right?
Yeah.
And we've each got a little bit of both there, obviously, but it's sort of, that's an interesting way to kind of like, if we were sitting with a stock trader or an investor, it's like, where do you like, I guess just by default of how I drafted them, I'm sort of like heavy, like the chips is where the money's going to happen, right? It's the safe. And then you're really, if you will, it's the services on top and people using the hyperscaler, which is really just a way of saying like people are building applications and they want to, have the hyperscalers host them and help build that. So, which makes sense given your background. That certainly makes sense.
It really is. It's going to be, will the last 3 years where all the money went continue? If so, then you win. And if value starts to float up, then that might win. So it's a good analysis. I like that. So, all right, man. Well, what overall, what was your thought process of this, your first experience of the AI draft? Are there things that you would change, in the process or anything along those lines?
Not really. I think I'm pretty happy. Like I said, I felt as we went into this, I felt like, and it kind of did play out that way. I think that the first 4 rounds is, I think, where you kind of make or break, right? There is, that's clearly what's really happening. And then when you get beyond that, like just like a draft in sports, it's just a lot of unknown and things like that, which just means that if anything is true here, one of these late round picks will be the ultimate star. It would be like the NFL MVP. So maybe like for you, maybe that's AMD. It's like, that was sort of like a throwaway pick. And it's like, look at that. Look at AMD. They came out with the better microprocessor and like you could think of them like, and they finally got their act together and like they funded the CUDA replacement thing. And it's like, now that's the new standard. And we'll be like, oh, that was obvious in hindsight. So, So I like that. I like it kind of played out mostly how I thought, but I like some of the late round picks. And it's gonna be fun to grade this in a year. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I appreciate that you now both get to be, the biggest cheerleader for Anthropic, and you also have to be the biggest cheerleader for OpenAI, which, that's a conundrum that you have to deal with.
It's like, it's almost like cheering for the Dallas Cowboys. It's like, I want the Cowboys to do well, but I want a coaching change, right? There. So, I kind of have both. I can win either way, so that's how it goes.
There you go. All right. Well, Brandon Whichard, draft expert, AI expert. Thank you for joining us, folks. Hope you had fun with this one. I know it wasn't as serious as some. And for those of you that don't follow football, this gives you an excuse to want to go follow football. It's the greatest sport there is. We think all of you should follow it. I know there's other sports, but we do our best to export it around the world. So with that, we'll wrap it up and we'll talk to you next week.
Check us out online at reasoning.show for all things reasoning. And leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to the show.